and welcome to another Cardinals Nest, where we talk St. Mary's University athletics. I'm Dean Beckman, the faculty athletics representative for St. Mary's. My co-host, as always, is Donny Nadeau, our sports information director. We're coming to you from the Jerry and Pat Pappenfuss Multimedia Lab in Aquinas Hall here on the campus of St. Mary's in Winona. And AJ Ruskowski is not only our producer of the show today, but Donnie, AJ is our guest today, a little bit later on the show.
Right. We got to put him in front of the camera rather than behind it, and talk a little bit about men's hockey and the last 4 weeks of their regular season and hopefully into the playoffs.
Yep, absolutely. It'll be great to have AJ on. That'll be in a few minutes, but first let's recap the previous week in St. Mary's sports. And Donnie, men's basketball, after one little blip against McAllister, they're back on the winning track again. They've won now 9 of their last 10 games, find themselves third in the conference, 7-5 in conference play, 11-6 on the season.
Yeah, and it's, I was talking to Coach Fano earlier this morning, and you want to congratulate them on a great season already because, like you just said, it's just been phenomenal. And, even the blip, as you mentioned it, against McAllister, every game they've played has been close.
Yeah.
And so you look at this team and what they've accomplished, and they're really a legit, good, solid team. And it starts with Raheem, and you can't talk men's basketball without talking about Raheem. This morning he was named to the D3 Hoops Team of the Week for the 3rd time this month. So, congratulations to him. And they're going to have to change the name of that, I think, to the Raheem of the Week or something. But, he had 41 points in their last game against Concordia, and, they needed every one of them. Yeah. They won by 4, but it was a tight game right to the bitter end. And I think that the thing that really impresses me about this team is that in those close games, they are doing what they need to do to get the job done. I think that Concordia went into it thinking, hey, you know what? It gets close down the stretch. We're going to follow Raheem and make him beat us from the free throw line, which is exactly what he did. He went 10 for 10 from the line, which is outstanding, and that's the difference. So everybody's trying to stop him, and they just can't do it. Then if you do slow him down, you've got Brayton Beisman, you've got Owen Ziegler, you've got Jabari Sawyer from the outside. It's a great recipe right now, and they've got a huge game on Saturday against league-leading Carleton. I think we'll really do a lot to kind of say where this season's going to go.
Yeah, that'll be a big game for sure. I think it helps that St. Mary's doesn't have a game Monday, Wednesday leading up to it. They've got the week to recover from any bumps and bruises they have. Rest up a little bit, practice, of course, get better at some areas. So that'll help. But no question, not only a big game with Carleton, but just the final stretch run of the season. When you win 9 of your last 10. It takes a lot out of you, right? It's a grind.
It does, and this isn't going to come out right, and I apologize, but I'm not sure that loss to McAllister wasn't necessarily a bad thing,
right? Yeah.
Because obviously we'd love to be 11-0 or 10-0 right now rather than 9-1 in these last 10 games. But it takes some of that pressure of that winning streak, the program record winning streak, off of them, and now they can focus on the next game and start thinking about, okay, where can we position ourselves in this crazy MIEC season? I mean, you look at this season right now. Last Monday, we played Augsburg and beat them by 35. I mean, it wasn't even close. Augsburg goes to St. John's and beats the Johnnies in St. John's. So it's that kind of a year where you don't know what's going to happen, and you can't take anything for granted. It's a team like Augsburg, which is in last place in the conference, you go to St. John's, which is second place in the conference, and you beat them there. That
shows you the depth and quality of the conference.
And so every game is going to be important. I mean, you look at Saturday against Carleton. We beat Carleton by 20 the first time we played them. Mm-hmm. Carleton's leading the league. Yeah. So it's every game is going to be, you're going to need your best if you're going to be able to compete. And I still think that the conference title is up for grabs, and I think that we're in as good a shape as anybody to wrestle that away.
Well, and as you said, we still have all of those top teams left to go,
we still
right?
Have Carleton, we still have St. John's. We still have Gustavus. We still have Olaf. Yep. So all of those teams that we want to stay ahead of, are still on the schedule.
The other thing, one more thing about Raheem, and then we'll move on to women's basketball. I was looking at the conference stats today. Not only does Raheem lead the conference in scoring at 24 points a game, but he leads the conference in assists.
Yep.
And I'm not a basketball historian, but I don't. That doesn't happen too often. That much I know.
And it tells you the kind of game that he has.
Yeah.
You know, he's as good a scorer as he is. He's not afraid to find the open guy, and if that's a better option, he's gonna dish that ball off. And I think that says a lot about him as a person, because it would be easier for him just to keep throwing him up, and but you know, if Jabari's open, Raheem's going to get him the ball, and Jabari's going to knock it down.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go to women's basketball now, and nice win, Donny, over McAllister College. Followed that with a close loss against a very good top 3 Concordia team, top 3 in the MIAC. So overall now they sit at 4-9 in the conference, 5-11 overall. But this is a team too, like the men's side, a lot of close games. Many of them, though, just not bouncing in their favor.
You look at their last 10 games, and 9 of them have been decided by 10 points or less. And that may sound like a lot, 10 points, but really, you think about
basketball,
that. In basketball, that's not that much. And you know, it's unfortunate that they've had so many games that have gone against them in those close contests. But you know, sitting at 4-9 right now, I wouldn't count them out just yet. They're a very talented team, and they're playing very well right now. They've just got to figure out a way to get over that hump.
Yep.
You know, to find those close games and win those rather than lose them. And both games that they lost last week against Augsburg and against Concordia were, you know, games that were decided in the fourth quarter and in the last few minutes. And so that's where they've got to you know, to figure it out. Against McAllister, they put the pedal to the metal from the get-go and never looked back.
Well, and I was going to say, and we talked about this when we had Izzy Gettleman on, that bump, as you talked about, is the first quarter.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an early bump.
It is, and it's hard. You know, like we've said before, it's, you know, if you're battling to come back from the first quarter on, that's a grind, not only physically but mentally as well. And you know, congratulations to Izzy on her 17-point performance against Concordia. Just another Cardinals Nest boost there. So good for her. But you know, it's tough, and you know, the women's standings are just as jumbled as the men's, so you know, anything can happen. There's a lot of basketball yet to be played, and so you know, it's going to be interesting to see how these last 4 weeks kind of shuffle out. And it's a big week for them because, as you had mentioned, you know, we got teams that are going to have to play on Monday again next week. So it's a tough stretch, and it's a grind, and you're already into the second half of the season. So your body's tired, and you could use that time off rather than having that Monday game.
I know, and I was thinking about, you know, this Wednesday there is no game, and I was like, boy, it's strange not to have a Wednesday game, but they make up for it next week.
Well, and the women actually do play on Wednesday because they've got
they're
St.
on
Kate's,
the road,
and that's the one that kind of makes up.
Right.
The guys have a bye week, and then the women still have to play because they have more teams in the conference. But yeah, on the road against St. Kate's, the challenges begin.
Indeed. A sport we haven't talked about yet this season on the Cardinals Nest is track and field, and the indoor track and field season has started, and the Cardinals were competing at the University of Wisconsin Invitational last weekend, Donnie, and that's a tough draw right away, but Aiden Gatz and others did very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when you go to UW La Crosse and you're squaring off against one of the nation's best teams in track and field, that's a tough way to start. Yeah. But I think it does do a nice job of kind of giving you a little bit of a measuring stick as to where you stack up. And I think that, you know, there were some very solid performances. You know, we had Samantha Kubas had a 6th and a 7th place finish in the shot and the weight throw, and Emily Kern, who's been our wonderful singer at a lot of our games singing the national anthem, she had a 6th place finish as well. And you mentioned Aiden Gatz in the pole vault, and Chris Bowa in the 400 also had top 9 finishes. So there's some very good performances. I think that it's just a chance to get the feet wet. They're back at it again this weekend, and I'm sure that Coach Schneider has expectations to continue to improve now that they've kind of gotten things going, and you know, the indoor season is very quick.
Right.
It's only about a 5-week season, so you know, they'll be gearing up, and as we always talk about, their focus is that MIC championships at the end of the indoor season. So it was a good start, and hopefully a sign of good things to come.
Excellent. And now we'll switch over to hockey, and again later we'll have our St. Mary's men's hockey goaltender on the show, A.J. Ruskowski. But first, women's hockey, Donnie, they keep improving. That winning percentage keeps going up. You know, they had that rough start to the season, but now in the conference, 2-7-1, 5-11-1, coming off of a split last weekend against St. Kate's, winning the Friday game 5-0.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things, and we can talk to AJ about it as well. But you know, the key to being successful in any of our sports is you have to be consistently good. And last weekend against St. Kate's is a great example, because Friday night could possibly be the best game I've seen him play in years. I mean, it was head and shoulders the best game we've played this year. And to beat St. Kate's 5-0 is really very convincing. But then to turn around and drop the second game 5-3 in a game that St. Kate's really did kind of dominate, that's, you know, it's a frustrating split, because I think that their talent and what they proved on Friday night is that they were the better team, and that you have to continually put that good performance out there, and you can't really afford to kind of sit back and say, okay, we beat them 5-0, now we're going to kick back and we should just coast on Saturday night. Obviously it doesn't happen that way. Congrats to Sydney Polzine, the MIC Offensive Player of the Week, 5 points, which is phenomenal. She had her first collegiate hat trick and also added 2 assists on the St. Mary's other 2 goals. So a great performance from her, and you know, a nice feather in her cap to get Offensive Player of the Week. You
know, I'm glad you brought up Sydney, just a sophomore, but you look up and down this lineup, the key contributors this year are primarily freshmen and sophomores. Yes, you have really experienced goaltender in Jordan Keeley, but a lot of the offensive talent on this team and the contributors this season are very young. So it's going to come together. It's just taking a little time.
And you forget that, too, because, you know, so many of the sophomores were big contributors as freshmen last year. So it's like you forget that they are only sophomores.
Right.
And I think that, you know, I think the adjustment period is over, but I think they just, right now they have to figure out that it's hard work to be successful. Yeah. It's not easy, and it doesn't come easy. You have to work at it, and sometimes that work isn't fun. You know, you need to grind it out. And in a season that you're playing every Friday and Saturday night, it is a grind, and you know, it's something you have to battle through a lot of times, because you're tired or you're sore or whatever it may be. But you know, I still think that they are in a position that if they can put together a, you know, 3, 4, 5 game winning streak here, they're going to be right in the playoff hunt. But they've got to get that consistency from everybody. All their players have to be consistent, and they need that solid performance down the stretch here.
It's difficult. It's a grind. It's hard work. Sounds like the job of a sports information director to me. So let's see what we have coming up this week in St. Mary's sports, Donnie.
Well, it's definitely another busy week for us. We'll go women's hockey and men's hockey first. They've got Bethel this weekend. The men are on the road on Friday. Women are at home on Friday. Then they flip-flop on Saturday, with the men being home on Saturday. Basketball, as we said, women's basketball is at St. Kate's on Wednesday night. And then they both head to Carleton for a big game both ways. It's a big game for them against the Knights on Saturday. And then, as we mentioned, they turn around and they've got to play Hamlin on Monday. So it's right back into the mix on Monday. So, you know, they've got 3 games in a short span. Tennis opens up this weekend. We've got Martin Luther for both the men and women on Saturday, and then the men will play Carleton on Sunday. So they kick off their season, and then indoor track is at St. Olaf for another invitation, which will be a nice one, because then they'll get back to getting that measuring stick against teams from the MIAC, which will be nice too, to just kind of see where we stack up in terms of you know, in terms of our conference and where we're sitting. So yeah, it's a busy weekend, but you know, you wouldn't have it any other way.
Now we have on A.J. Ruskowski from the men's hockey team. He's the only person I'm aware of, Donnie, that can be 2 places at the exact same time. He's not only currently producing our show, he's also a guest here on the Cardinals Nest. So, A.J., welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What do you think about this side of the camera as opposed to that side of the camera where you usually are?
Yeah, I've been told I look good behind the camera, so we'll see how I do in front of it.
You look just fine in front of it as well.
We did forget like a little booster, though. I think
Yeah.
For
For
those
us,
who don't know,
we-
AJ Towers at
Right
like
down.
6'9", so he's a rather tall goalie. So I'm feeling a little short here.
I think
but-
you added a couple of inches to the roster size.
Yeah, we always do.
So, but AJ, welcome. And since this is your first time as a guest on the Cardinals Nest, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a Michigander, right? So
Yep.
tell us about where you're from and kind of how you got your start in hockey and then eventually found your way to us here at St. Mary's.
Yeah. So I'm from Traverse City, Michigan, which is a kind of a touristy town in northern Lower Michigan. And yeah, just kind of grew up playing hockey up north with some pretty good players. And then in northern Michigan, as you get older, you kind of transition down into the Detroit area where there's a little bit more of higher competition and things like that. And so kind of took that route and moved away at 15 and then kind of worked my way up through juniors and whatnot and ended up here. So
You know, a lot of people may have glossed over, but talk a little bit about leaving home at 15 because
Yeah.
you know, those of us from Winona or whatever. I mean, I had my kids and was able to watch all their games and be at all
Yeah.
their games and coach my kids. It's a little different for you in that you leave at 15 and you're going someplace that is not the comfort of home.
yeah, for sure. I think hockey's kind of unique in that way, in that people move away at a young age in order to shoot for those better teams. And I think the main reason is because the junior setup that the hockey world has, like you're getting recruited when you're 14 and 15 by these junior teams sometimes, and then when you get to 16 and 17, you're looking to break into these junior leagues. So I moved away at 15, had a great billet family in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My parents were still able to make it down to some tournaments on the weekends and stuff, so it was always good to have them come down. But then, kind of moved around the Detroit area all the way up for U15, U16, and U18, and then made the transition to junior after that. But I think that's kind of you can talk to all 31 other guys on the team, and they're all pretty similar stories. So, it's kind of good to have that tight-knit group and similar experiences that we all go through.
You know, the other thing that I kind of marvel at men's hockey in that, you take 3 years off of going to school,
Yeah,
and
it was
you are
3
a quote unquote an amateur professional player because all you had to do was play hockey. How hard was it when you came to St. Mary's, when you got here, to kind of retransition to being a student again? Because you probably had a couple years where that wasn't the case.
Yeah, so for me it was 3 years, some guys is 2. And then that age out year, you're supposed to kind of be a full-time enrolled student your second semester if you're turning 21 years old. For me, I was kind of fortunately, maybe unfortunately, however you look at it, it was the COVID year for my age out year. So they got rid of that rule where you had to be enrolled in classes. So I did take a true full 3 years off of schooling. But coming here with the smaller class sizes and the professors that kind of understand our paths and what we went through, I think it really helps to kind of be in that environment where they're very understanding and you're kind of upfront with them, like, hey, first semester freshman year, maybe it takes you a couple weeks to figure out how to turn in homework again, but
Sure.
yeah, it all worked out well.
So AJ, you're a sophomore now. Does it feel like you've been doing it the whole time anyway?
Yeah, it's been going good. Last year academically went pretty good, so hoping to keep continuing that this year. So.
Well, and the other thing you're continuing this year is you're seeing more and more ice time, partly due to the injury to Matt Sankner, but you also saw some action early in the season as well. So right now, you're one of our starting goaltenders on the men's hockey team. What has that transition been like for you, where, in juniors, you were probably one of the main goaltenders, came here. Last year, Matt kind of took over the starting role for most of the season. And so talk about that transition of, being on a college team, supporting the team, and then being ready when your name is called as it is now with Matt's injury.
Yeah, I think as the recruitment process was going on with Coach Egan, I think I really respected the way he handled communicating to me and what his goaltending needs were and what the situation was. I know we had Connor here a year before Matt and I came in, and Connor is a great guy to learn from. He's very technically sound, and I think that we have 3 guys as well as Parker who can be put in the net in any situation, and I think that will give the team a chance to win. So I think it creates healthy competition in that regard. But I think no matter what position you are on the depth chart, I think we all have to be ready to go in. So I think it's
that was what I was gonna ask too. You never want to root for someone to get hurt, but as a goalie, I mean, only one gets to play, and you have four, and so is it difficult to be a team player in that, if Matt's playing, you've got to be supportive, but I know deep down you want to play, and so how do you handle that, because that can't be easy.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that when we come in here, we know we're making a 4-year commitment, so our egos need to be left at home. They can't be packed when you come to college, and I think that whatever goalie has the hot hand, that's the one that coach is going to go with, obviously, because it's a quick sprint in college hockey. It's not the long 60-game seasons that we played in junior. So I think whoever has the hot hand is going to go, and we have to respect that and cheer for them as much as you can. And then when we're practicing throughout the week, that's when we can start to push each other in small area games or whatever we might be doing in practice during the week. So.
Well, and while we're on the topic of mentality, my wife would tell you I would make a terrific goaltender because I have a short memory. And you have to as a goaltender, right?
You need to.
As we were talking earlier off camera, this has been an even 500 season so far. 4-4, 8-1. You win one, you lose one, right? As a goaltender, it's got to be tough sometimes, frustrating when you let some in or they score a bunch of goals. But the next night out, it's 0-0 again. You got to get back out there. Talk about that short memory mentality as a goaltender, especially.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the positions in all of sports that's probably the majority of the skills needed is mental, and the way that you're talking to yourself in your head is a big part of the game. And I think that, like you said, the idea that there's always another shot that's going to come, unless it's an overtime loss and that goal goes in.
Right.
There's usually always another shot in the game that you got to get ready for. So you got to clean the memory real quick.
Well, and you have to have thick skin as a goalie.
Yep.
I mean, I've told this story many times. My oldest was a goalie, and he played high school and played at St. Mary's, and I always told him that player could skate through the entire team and score on you, and it's your fault. It doesn't matter what he did to those 5 because you let the puck in. So you really do have to kind of be thick-skinned because everybody's pointing at you if a puck goes in. Is that difficult?
No, I don't think so. I think that we've all made it this far in the game because we've learned to deal with situations like that. Like you said, at the end of the day, sometimes we get too much of the blame, but then in turn, sometimes we get too much of the credit sometimes. So it's kind of to find that balance of where you stand is kind of how you have to go about it.
We were talking in the first segment about consistency.
Yep.
And I think if you look at, unfortunately you had the bye last weekend, but your last games against St. Olaf, Friday night you win 8-2 on the road, so I didn't get to see it, but it had to be easy. You guys made it look easy.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you score 2 goals to start Saturday and give up 5 straight to lose. It's that consistency that really is key in the MIUC.
Yeah, for sure. I think if we look back to last weekend, we put up 4 in the first period, and I still think we didn't take our foot off the gas. And if you look on Saturday, we got the first 2 goals of the game, and then we kind of had a little lapse there for 3 minutes where we kind of took our foot off the gas, and we weren't able to finish out strong. And then at the end of the day, I needed to make some saves that I didn't. But it's always next weekend, so we had to turn it, like you said, short-term memory, turn the page, and then look towards Bethel this weekend.
This is really, it seems like a very close-knit group. Talk about kind of the chemistry, sort of the brotherhood on this team.
Yeah. I think with my class, we had a very large class that came in last year, and I think that we're all very close together. We moved off campus this year and all are living. We have 6 of us living together, so I think that aspect kind of brings us really close together. And then I think like we had an off weekend last weekend, we're always staying together, doing team activities and stuff like that. So even when we're not at the rink, we're always together, and that comes with kind of our experiences are kind of different than other people, so we enjoy doing some other things that other individuals on campus might not, but it brings us closer together.
Well, and talk a little bit, one of those things is you do a lot of volunteering. I know you work with the youth goalies in town here. Talk a little bit about that and I guess why you do that.
Yeah, so I think a future that I'm really interested in is coaching, and I think that if you're able to volunteer or work for programs that are in the area when you're in college, it'll only help grow your skills in teaching and the ability to coach younger players, and that'll only better you as you're transitioning into the ideally an older group when it's all said and done.
You
But,
get
yeah.
this 6'7" guy out there with this little 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Donnie, we have time for a few more fun questions.
Sure.
I'll ask the first one. AJ, let's say you're playing slow pitch softball.
Okay.
Your team is down by a run. It's the bottom of the 7th inning.
Yeah.
Bases are loaded. You're the one on third base, or you're the game-tying run.
Yeah.
Who do you want coming up to bat? Do you want Lawton? Do you want Bud? Or do you want Noah Kimmel?
Oh man.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. In order for me to sleep well at night, I think I'm gonna have to say Lawton. His room's right down the hall from me, so.
I wouldn't say Bud because he struck out, remember?
Oh man.
I wouldn't say Bud.
I wasn't there to watch him play, so I can't comment on it. But yeah, no, I think Lawton has the ability to put it over the fence, but maybe just get an old base hit too. So.
Trust me, from experience, you do not want to be on third base when Bud is batting because you are likely to get nailed.
He likes to turn on the ball.
Pull hitter.
Turn on the
Dead
ball.
pull.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it falls during the same season, but did you ever think of going to talk to Coach Fano? He could probably use a 6'7" center on the basketball
Yeah,
team.
so I played basketball in middle school, and just because I was tall. And the ball didn't go in the hoop too many times for me, but so I kind of stuck with hockey. But we enjoy going to the rack before practice. We're always messing around playing basketball. But,
And I assume you can dunk?
I'll say yeah for the camera. Sometimes it's no, depending on
The
how
camera
the
doesn't
legs
lie,
feel.
so.
Depending on how the legs feel. But yeah, I'll say yeah for the camera.
Yeah, so, all right, good. Donnie, anything else?
No, that was
All right.
that was it.
AJ Ruskowski, thank you so much for stepping out from behind the camera for a few minutes and joining us in front here.
Yep,
So.
absolutely.
Lights are bright, aren't they?
They are. Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it.
So, all right, that's going to do it for this Cardinals Nest. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in again next time.